The Texas Longhorns face off against the Arizona State Sun Devils New Year's Day at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, and that is noon Central Time and 11 a.m. Mountain Time for Texas fans and Arizona State fans. They'll be playing in the Peach Bowl, the second College Football Playoff Quarterfinal game. And Arizona State is in a similar situation to Boise State, where Arizona State and Boise State are the higher seeds, and yet they are double-digit underdogs to the lower seeds playing them, who played in the first-round games. And that's just because of how the 12-team college football playoff works and its seeding and bracket. It's a topic for another day. Many people have pointed out that it's very flawed, and I think the epitome of that sentiment is the fact that Texas is favored by 14 points. They're favored by 2 touchdowns to win this game, and the line opened up at Texas minus 12.5. So it's not like this is all betting. The expectation is that Texas wins big here, and they're given a 79.5% chance to win this game per the computers. So just something to keep in mind is that on any given Saturday, or in this case for New Year's Day, any given Wednesday, and for any games happening on Tuesday, any given Tuesday, any given time teams match up on the field, stuff can happen. But Texas is viewed here as the better team, and I want to talk about this game and how Arizona State can cause some issues, and also, will Texas win? Will they cover? I'm going to answer all these questions here, and we'll have a great, fantastic time. Before we do so, though, I encourage you to like the video, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell, and also comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. Your prediction for this game, a brief preview if you have one, and also hit the notification bell so that you can get notified when we go live to do play-by-play, color commentary, interacting with the chat during commercial breaks for these quarterfinal games, for Penn State, Boise State, for this game, the Peach Bowl, Texas versus Arizona State, for Ohio State versus Oregon, and also for Notre Dame versus Georgia. I'm talking about all these games, releasing deep dives, doing content here because this is an exciting time in college football, the postseason. So please hit the notification bell so that you can get notified when I release more content, and share this video around to other college football fans you know. And lastly, if you want to support the channel monetarily, donate to support the work I do here, you can sign up as a paid member of the Patreon page via the link in the description or down below in the pinned comment. And the merchandise store link is there as well. You could donate via a super chat in the comments section. More importantly than any of that, though, do the things I mentioned that are for free, and also join the Discord server via the link in the description or down below in the pinned comment. But let's talk about these two teams here, and first and foremost, pay attention to the critical matchups. So the first one, and this one's a little bit interesting because Texas has tragically suffered some injuries. I'm hoping, praying that Jake Majors, Cameron Williams, and Contravion Wisner get healthy soon, in time to play in this game. But they all went down against Clemson. And Texas is a team that, if they can run on you, they will dominate you. If they can't, then you have a chance at beating them, even if you are far inferior to them in terms of roster talent. So if Texas is going to win in a blowout, they will run the ball in Arizona State, and they will run the ball well. If Arizona State's going to pull off the upset here, they need to stop Texas's ground attack. And that all depends partly on how the offensive line is constructed, but also on if Arizona State can play their best defensive game, because their defense is not their strong suit. That's their offense here. And they have not faced an offensive line like Texas. And while Texas's running backs are not world class overall, their speed is pretty close to world class. So that is a matchup that I am very excited for, that I'm anxiously awaiting for. And we cannot forget as well the wide receivers and the tight ends for Texas that have done a very good job of blocking for this rushing attack. And against Texas A&M and against Clemson, Texas was able to run the football pretty well. I think it's no coincidence, though, that those rushing defenses are a little bit questionable. Meanwhile, Georgia has a really good rushing defense, and Texas couldn't run in them at all. But Arizona State's rushing defense is closer to that of the Aggies and also to the Tigers than it is to the Bulldogs. So how do they show up? How do they perform up front, Arizona State, versus this intimidating, large, fast Texas trench play and also their skill position players on the ground. The second matchup is Texas's defense against Arizona State's rushing attack, because Arizona State is Sam Leavitt, who is a top 15 QB by QBR. He has about 400 rushing yards, a few rushing touchdowns. And Cam Skattebo is a 1,000-yard rusher with well over 10 rushing touchdowns, and he received some Heisman votes, and he's a really good running back, one of the best running backs in all of college football. So Texas, as a defense, has not faced a lot of high-flying, disciplined, effective offenses. They have not faced a lot of offenses that have non-negotiables. I mean, think about it. Who did they start off the year playing? Like Colorado State, Michigan. They played Mississippi State. They played Georgia twice, and Georgia's offense is its weakness. If we're talking about offense, defense, and special teams, the offense is the weakest out of those three. A&M's offense has been a little bit clunky, especially at quarterback. They played Florida without DJ Lagway, and they played Kentucky, for example. And there are other opponents I didn't mention, but just to use as an example, Arizona State has one of the better offenses they've played all season long. And Arizona State has more balance, I believe, than, let's say, a team like Clemson, who had their desired two deep out at running back. They had to convert a backup wide receiver to running back in that game. And they had some success on the ground, but not that much. They had a lot of success through the air. And if Arizona State's going to have a lot of success through the air, because Texas will make adjustments with their elite defensive staff, they're going to have to run the ball and do it better than Clemson if they want to pull off the upset and also score points here and make this a game. So that's the secondary matchup. That's matchup B in comparison to matchup A, which is, can Arizona State stop this Texas rushing attack? Let's check out these offenses in greater detail, though. And I think that the Longhorns overall do have the better offense, the much better offense. But at the same time, I can say that Quinn Ewers has been rather disappointing. Sam Leavitt has been very impressive. And I also think that Cam Skattebo would start at Texas right now at running back. I firmly believe that. And he would be in that Texas running back room. I don't know if he would be a Heisman winner, because typically a feature back is not something that you see in college football anymore, especially at a high level. But maybe he would be, because he has had a phenomenal season so far. And I really like what Arizona State has done with him. And I believe that, look, with him, and if Sam Leavitt is on, if their offense is on, if their defense has a good game, they can play with a lot of teams. They've punched above their weight class all season long. Arizona State has. I mean, they were predicted to finish toward the bottom, if not in last place, in the Big 12, and they won the Big 12. What a job by head coach Kenny Dillingham, honestly. So when I look at these offenses, again, I do think that Texas has the better offense, but I think that Sam Leavitt right now is a better quarterback than Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers at his best is better than Sam Leavitt at his best, but Ewers has been very inconsistent, and his defense and supporting cast has carried him in a lot of games. More often, it's Quinn Ewers holding Texas back rather than him advancing the Longhorns' goals in winning the SEC, which they didn't do, in large part because he made a lot of bad throws and even some bad reads as well. And they can win it all, but he'll have to play better in order for Texas and Steve Sarkisian to win it all, for Texas to win their first national championship since they had Vince Young. Ewers, 2,867 passing yards, 26 touchdowns, 10 picks. Leavitt, 2,663 passing yards, 24 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. You look at Arizona State's Cam Skattebo, 1,568 rushing yards, 19 rushing touchdowns. He has a lot of power behind his step, very good at breaking tackles here. And Arizona State right now, I don't know if Tyson's healthy, because I think he was injured. I don't know if he's out for the year or not, but he was injured against Iowa State. And I mean, he has 1,000 receiving yards in the year. This Arizona State offense has been incredible. So I like it. I like it. Now, again, I think Texas is better. I think they're better on the lines of scrimmage. I think that Kelvin Banks Jr., Hayden Connor, Jake Majors, DJ Campbell and Cameron Williams are better than Arizona State's Josh Atkins, Ben Coleman, Leaf Fatanu, Cade Briggs, and Match Inakor. But even if Texas has injuries there, I think that holds, even if Jake Majors and Cameron Williams can't play. They're deep, they're well recruited, and they're well developed. I like Isaiah Bond, Matthew Golden, DeAndre Moore Jr., and Ryan Wingo over Xavier Gulray, Jordan Tyson, and Melquan Stovall. I like them there. Tight end, Cameron Medier for Arizona State. I don't think he's as good as Gunnar Helm, for example. And Contravion Wisner, Jaden Blue, Jarrett Gibson. That's a good duo, good trio right there. But Cam Skattebo by himself is an elite running back right there. So those are the position rooms that I like on offense. When you look at these offenses, Texas right now, they are scoring 33.9 points per game. They're averaging 0.462 points per play. Arizona State's averaging 0.482 points per play and 33.1 points per game. For these defenses, it's pretty simple. Texas rules everywhere. I like Texas's defense. Those players being Barron Sorrell, Alfred Collins, Bill Norton, Vernon Broughton, Troy Moore, Anthony Hill Jr., David Benda, Jade Barron, Michael Taffe, Andrew Makuba, Malik Muhammad, and Jalen Gilbo. I prefer them over Arizona State's Elijah O'Neal, CJ Fight, Jacob Kongaika, Clayton Smith, Keyshawn Elliott, Zyrus Fesu, Javon Robinson, Miles Roser, Xavier Alford, Keith Abney II, and Shamari Simmons. Arizona State's defense this season has been its weakness again. I mean, you look at its defense right now, they're allowing 21.3 points per game, which is 22nd, and 0.319 points per play, which is 29th. It's better than certainly I would have predicted entering the season. In fact, looking at it right now, it's a little bit shocking. I would have expected it to be worse. But, for example, they allow opponents to score on 84.85% of their red zone trips. And in total defense, they're 30th in opponent yards per play, allowing 5. They allow 20.5 first downs per game, and they allow 333.2 yards per game. And I think a large part of that is the fact that they have like a statistically good defense is not just because they're well coached and they have good talent. Keep in mind that the Big 12 in particular is different from the SEC and from the Big 10, and it's not hating, quote unquote, to say that whatsoever. So I confidently believe that the Texas Longhorns are the better team here, but especially on defense. I don't think that's dishonest at all to say. I mean, Pete Kwiatkowski has built a wonderful unit with the help of co-defensive coordinator Johnny Nansen, and they've recruited and developed pretty well there. Arizona State right now, I mean, as I've already mentioned, they have a good defense. I think Brian Ward's done a good job there in his second year. But regardless, Texas is one of the best defenses in the country. I can't say that intellectually, honestly, for Arizona State. In the trenches, I'd pick Texas. For special teams, I'd lean Arizona State. And then in terms of a roster, both in development, the eye test, and also recruiting, so the blue chip ratio favors Texas, but also just watching Texas's roster function, it's obvious, that they have the better unit than Arizona State does. Texas is favored to win this game by 14.4 points per FPI. Per S&P Plus, they're favored to win by 16 points. And per my potential power index, Texas is favored to win this game by 20.2 points. So the Longhorns, they're big favorites here, but a lot of power ratings are saying that they're not favored enough. You look at these teams and compare them from a broad perspective, specifically in terms of dominance. Texas has a points per play margin of 0.259, which means for every one of their plays that they run, compared to every one of their average opponent's plays they run, they outscore their average opponent by 0.259 points per an individual play. That's a lot. That means they're a dominant team, and they have an expected points added margin of 0.26. So Texas moves the football better than their opponents do. and they score more than their opponents do. And they do it with fewer plays, and they do a better job of limiting their opponents from moving the ball and from scoring than opponents do at limiting them from doing those things. For Arizona State, it's the same, but not to the same degree. They have a points per play margin of 0.162 and an expected points added margin of 0.167. These teams, in terms of strength of schedules, I've already mentioned, are not the same. Texas has the 13th toughest strength of schedule. They are first in FPI and also first in game control. Arizona State is 64th in terms of strength of schedule played. They are 22nd in FPI and 16th in game control. Game control being a measurement of how good you would do with your schedule, which is already recorded, of course, by the games you've played, compared to how computers would expect other teams to perform with your schedule. So 15 other teams are viewed as more efficient or better performing than Arizona State, factoring in the strength of schedules and all that good stuff. In terms of coaching, I don't know where I would go offensively. I think that Marcus Arroyo's done a very good job there as the offensive coordinator. Kenny Dillingham is obviously an offensive mind, and that's what's leading the Sun Devils' success right now, is their offense. I mean, talk about Utah. Amazing defense. They scored 27 points on them. Against Kansas State, they started the game hot on offense. Of course, they held Kansas State to 14 points on defense, but Kansas State's offense is pretty questionable. For BYU, they put up 28 points on a defense that has been one of Kalani Sitake's better units. They put up 45 points on an Iowa State defense that is well coached by John Heacock and has good players, especially in pass defense. And they ran all over them. They passed it over them. They did really whatever they wanted on that poor Iowa State defense. And Texas has been a bit underperforming, if we're being honest here, on the offensive side of the football. So when it comes to offensive coaching, it's a push. I would actually lean a little bit Arizona State there. However, Sarkisian is still a great play caller. He's a better head coach right now than Dillingham is, though with what Dillingham's done this year, if they keep replicating that and build even better teams, Dillingham could be a future star. Not just at Arizona State, but maybe at a bigger program, perhaps. And then I think Texas is a way better defensive staff, and I think they have a better strength and conditioning staff as well. All of this leads me to pick them to win. I think they'll win. I think they'll cover. I think it'll be by a score of 42-24. I think that Texas will score more on Arizona State than they did Clemson, for the simple fact that I think Clemson may actually have the better overall defense, or at least superior talent. Like, take a look at this for Arizona State, for example. We know they don't have the same talent that Clemson does, and I know that's not everything. In rushing defense, though, they allow 3.8 yards per attempt on the ground, which is 33rd. Now, Clemson was much worse there, but then look at Arizona State's, well, their secondary is good, allowing 6.3 opponent yards per pass attempt, 10.7 yards per completion. That's good, but also keep in mind that their sack percentage is 4.07% at 122nd. Yours will likely have all day in the pocket. They only get 1.5 sacks per game. Meanwhile, Texas on offense here, they only allow 2.2 sacks per game, which isn't great. And they have a QB sack percentage of 6.16%, which also isn't great. But keep in mind the strength of schedule difference and the fact that Arizona State's pass rush is so much worse than a Texas pass protection unit that is held up in basically every game outside of their 2 games against Georgia. And that's Georgia. Georgia's 2024 defensive front is closer to their 2021 and 2022 elite defensive fronts than a 2023 front that even Smart himself said was a bit underperforming. I just think that Arizona State is a little bit statistically overvalued, particularly on defense, but I do think that with Skattebo and with Leavitt and with the coaching they have on offense, I think they'll be able to score some points here. I think Clemson exposed legitimate weaknesses in parts of Texas's defense that I think Arizona State, with their effective QB play and an X-factor player like Skattebo, can expose. So my model has Texas winning by 20.2 points. I have Texas winning by 18 and covering the spread. I think it will be competitive for 1 or 2 quarters, probably for 2, I would say, just given that I think Arizona State is a bye. Well, I know they have a bye, but I think off the bye, with how Dillingham has performed this year, I think they'll come out hot. I think they'll play with fire and motivation. And it typically takes Texas a quarter or two to warm up. But entering half, you'll probably see that Texas is the better team. And after the half, I think Texas will put this one away and march on to play the winner of Oregon and Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. So go Sun Devils, go Arizona State Sun Devils, and go Texas Longhorns. May your teams be healthy. May they have success. And yeah, let's hope that it is a fun Peach Bowl. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel, and also hit that notification bell so that way you can get notified when new content from College Football with Sam drops. I appreciate you very much, and also share the video around to others who you know enjoy the sport of college football and love it as I do and as you do, and comment your thoughts down below so that we can have a conversation, because I want to know what you are thinking. And join our Discord server where we talk college football 24/7 via the link in the description or down below in the pinned comment. Thank you to my Heisman Patreon members, Crash2488, Brasco Rascal, and Conlo OH. Thank you to my All-American Patreon members, Chris Lane, Ismar, and Tyler Nye. And thank you to my All-Conference members, John Lynn, Roaming Gnome, Matthew Sale, Austin Christmas, Joshua Jorgensen, and Will Loftus. Make sure to check out my merchandise store and or Patreon page, or super chat down in the comment section below to support the channel. The Patreon page and merchandise store links are in the description or down below in the pinned comment. I hope you have a wonderful day. It is December, so Merry Christmas and also Happy New Year. I will see you guys soon.